So, what's your age? No, not your chronological age. What's your biological age? Do you know what it is? Have you ever tested it? And also, many of us who exercise and mind our diets and sleep and stress and lifestyles in general obviously do it because we're hoping that it's contributing to longer, healthier lifespans. But here's the question. How would we know if that's working? Well, that's where biological age and biological aging really comes in. And with that comes testing of biological age. And that's what we're going to talk about on this video. So, hi, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody is healthy and happy and doing well. And so in this video, we're going to talk about biological age, what it is, if it's useful, how it's being tested. And before we dive in, a couple of quick disclaimers. I have no interest or conflicts of interest with regards to any of the commercial labs that we're going to talk about. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. So if you appreciate it, click like and subscribe. Secondly, I'm not offering any medical advice. If you're looking for medical assistance, please seek it from qualified medical professionals. And finally, I'm going to give you a sampling of biological tests, not a comprehensive list. If you're looking for something more comprehensive, Google is your friend. I'm sure you can Google as well as I can, if not even better. And with that, let's dive in. We all know that chronological age is associated with disease and ultimately death. But of course, we also appreciate that people pass away at different ages and in different shapes. And so as a minimum, that should tell us, of course, that chronological age is not a good indicator of health and life expectancy, and may in fact not even be the major determinant of health and lifespan and quality of life, right? And that is, of course, because the aging in our bodies, the biological ages at a molecular, cellular level, is related to, but far from perfectly, to the passage of time. There are many other factors that will influence it, such as our genetics, the environment in which we live and grow up, diet, exercise, sleep, lifestyles in general, all of which, of course, will influence the pace at which our bodies are aging, right? And that's the whole idea behind biological age. What if we could determine the pace at which our bodies are aging in a biological sense? And also understand whether our diets and exercise and sleep and lifestyle in general is slowing down the pace of aging or maybe speeding it up so it exceeds the chronological passage of time. And the good news, of course, is that we can. That's why we're talking about biological age and testing of biological age, which, we would obviously like our biological age to be less than our chronological age. And we would also obviously like our bodies to be aging at a slower pace than the passage of chronological time. Now, one interesting caveat to understand here is that it would be very unusual for all of our major systems, such as the cardiovascular system, the metabolic system, the central nervous system, and other systems that we have in our bodies, to all be aging at the same pace. And therein lies the potential for interesting discoveries if we sort of delve into this. And the other thing is that the aging of all of these systems may not be entirely consistent, and there may be some interesting trade-offs here. So how do we measure biological age? Well, there are three principal methods, biomarkers if you want, that we're going to briefly discuss in this video for how we determine biological age. Given the current state of the art, which, keep in mind, science is advancing, so it's obviously changing. And the first is based on a combination of blood lab values, which measure the functioning of the different systems, such as metabolism, inflammation, liver, kidney, immunity, etc. The second is based on immunoglobulin G glycosylation. I will spell it out for everybody so you can see how it's spelled. And the third, which has received the most scientific attention right now, is based on DNA methylation, and especially 5-methyl cytosine, which has given rise to so-called CpGs-based epigenetic clocks. which measure the percentage methylation at key CpGS sites. We're not going to delve into the science behind all of these biomarkers. That would take way too long. That said, I will leave links to key articles for those of you who want to pursue it further in the descriptions below. For our purposes, suffice it to say that all of these biomarkers are correlated with biological aging. And I say correlated because since we don't fully understand the aging process, scientists are not really sure if these biomarkers are driving the process of aging, which would imply causation, or whether they occur as a result of aging. But in any event, these biomarkers are clearly correlated, and highly so, with biological age, and that's what makes them useful as biomarkers. So in this video, we're now going to take a look at 5 different commercial biological age tests based on the 3 types of biomarkers that we just discussed. And it's important to understand that none of these are FDA approved, and there are in fact no FDA approved biological age tests. The second thing to understand is that they use proprietary formulas which are mostly not publicly known. And for that reason, there is no academic literature that has reviewed and validated them, and you and I as consumers do not know what those formulas are and how accurate they are. So with that, we're now going to take a look at 5 of these commercial biological age tests that are available, and we're going to look at them from the least to the most expensive. So the simplest, least expensive, but also least precise one would be to go to a commercial lab and take a blood test, which tests for 9 different specific values. And I'm going to leave the full list in the description below, but we're talking about things like fast glucose, C-reactive protein, albumin, etc. And then go online, and I will leave a link to that, of course, and enter your lab values into the PhenoAge formula, which is actually a publicly known formula that has been published upon. And that will give you sort of an estimate of your biological age. You may, in fact, need to order 2 different tests because C-reactive protein, which is part of the PhenoAge formula, is not necessarily included in all standard lab tests. Next is a blood test called InnerAge2, which is sold by Inside Tracker. And what they do is that they send you actually in this case you have to go for a blood draw, either at a lab or have a phlebotomist come and visit you in your home or in your office, and then you send it to them. And they analyze 17 biomarkers for men and 13 biomarkers for women. And once again, we're talking about things such as glucose, albumin, hematocrit, testosterone, triglycerides, etc. And they will apply their proprietary formula to that to estimate your biological age and give you recommendations. And this test sells for $249. Third is a test called GlycanAge, or rather the company is called GlycanAge, I believe. And as the name implies, their test is based on the immunoglobulin G glycosylation approach that we talked about a minute or so ago. They analyze 27 glycans, and based on their proprietary formula for that, they will provide an estimate of your age and recommendations for improvements. And the way it works in their case is they send you a kit, you prick your finger, you collect some blood, you send it back to them, and a few weeks later they will sort of post your results on the web. And that will cost you $348. The 4th test is called Index. It's provided by Elysium Health. It's a saliva-based test. They send you a tube, you spit into it, send it back to them, and a few weeks later they will have analyzed the DNA methylation of your DNA to determine your age and the rate of aging. And their test costs $499. And the 5th test is another DNA methylation test, and this one is provided by True Diagnostics. It is actually based on a Dandin paste test, which has been published upon and reviewed in the academic literature. And I think this one is also a blood-based test. They send you a kit, you collect your own blood, you send it back to them, and this one costs $499. Now, as I mentioned at the get-go, this is just a sampling of biological age tests that are out there that use the different methods, and I'm simply using it to provide you with a few examples. It's not an exhaustive list. If you want an exhaustive list, you can do a Google search, and I'm sure you'll be very successful in finding it. And furthermore, I am not making any recommendations or any evaluations or any assessments of these tests. I think if you decide that you want to do one of these, it's obviously important to look at what it is that they deliver and how to make sure that you get what you're looking for. And finally, let's not forget that this is something that is still undergoing very active research. Things are changing, so I'm sure that in another 6, 12, 18 months, there are going to be other tests out there in addition to what you will find today. And so, if you decide to do one of these tests, should you just do one or should you do it periodically, or what makes sense? And the companies who offer these tests have some ideas about that, but so do I. So here is my thinking. And, I think there are a couple of different variables that are worth considering. Certainly the first one is the cost, and we all have to decide what we think is worthwhile and affordable to us. But past that, I also think we need to think about what does the original test show? Do we intend to undertake any changes in our diet, exercise, and lifestyles based on that? And then finally, how long is it going to take for those changes to work themselves through and manifest themselves in a test? So, thinking about two scenarios, imagine, for instance, one scenario where you take the test, you're happy with the results, it shows that your biological age is less than your chronological age, and so for that reason you decide to maintain your current routine in terms of exercise and diet and sleep and lifestyle in general. And in that case, I don't really see a need to do a test anytime soon, because all you're really looking to do is to maintain the steady state. And so in such a case, it might make sense, maybe, to do a second test anywhere from 6 to 12 months down the road, just to make sure that you're staying on the track that you're on. On the other hand, say you take the test and you're not happy with the result that comes back, and you decide to implement some significant changes to your lifestyle, whether it's exercise or diet or sleep or something else, then it obviously might make sense to take a second test, and the question then becomes, how soon? And my thinking would be that if you're going to change something, it might take anywhere from 3 to 4 months for those changes to work themselves through in your body to a sufficient degree to actually show something meaningful in a test. So I would suggest probably waiting at least 3 to 4 months to take a second test. And if you continue to make changes and you want to see that you're on the right track, maybe another 4 to 6 months after that for the third test. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and obviously there are other scenarios in between that we haven't considered, but hopefully at least this gives you sort of a bit of a hint. And so to wrap it up, as we've seen, biological age is a predictor of our health and rate of aging and lifespan in general, and it's better than chronological age for most of us probably. And it can also be a good way of checking whether our diet and exercise regime, sleep, and other things that we do are actually having the desired effect of helping us manage our health and reduce, hopefully slow down our aging, right? And as we've talked, there are a number of different commercial services out there that do things using somewhat different approaches. And if you're going to do one of those, obviously it makes sense to delve a little deeper into it to make sure that the one that you choose does what you're looking for and does it the way that you'd like to have it done. And so with that, now I'd like to hear from you. What do you think your chronological age is relative to your biological age? Would you like to find out what your biological age is? Are you going to look into one of these tests and maybe do one of them? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've already taken one of those biological tests, let us know what your experience has been and what you found out. It'll be exciting for everybody to know. And with that, I hope you're all well. Take good care, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.